Cold winds screamed across the high alien mountains as night slowly took over the sky. Snow fell like sharp needles, and the dark clouds moved low, hiding the moon. The villagers living at the foot of the mountain always said one thing: no one should enter the mountain caves at night. Strange sounds, strange lights, strange disappearances. Everything happened there. But tonight, someone was already inside. An alien mother held her small child tightly in her arms. The cave around them was freezing cold. Water dripped from the sharp stones above, and the wind howled like a living creature. The mother's body shook, not only because of the cold, but also because of fear. Her child was weak. His skin was pale, his breath slow, and his stomach empty. They had been stuck in the cave for 3 long days. Their food had finished yesterday. Their hope was finishing today. She whispered, "Stay awake, my little one. Please stay awake." But the child could barely open his eyes. The cave was huge, and darkness spread everywhere. Every time the mother closed her eyes, she heard something moving deep inside. The sound was slow, heavy, like a creature dragging its tail. The villagers were right. This cave was cursed, but she had no choice. A deadly storm hit their village when she was out collecting herbs for medicine. She had run with her child in her arms, trying to find shelter. The cave was the closest place, but also the most dangerous. Now she wondered if choosing the cave was a mistake. Was the storm safer than this darkness? Was anyone even looking for them? Far below the mountain, many miles away, a human traveler walked on the snowy road. He was alone, carrying only a flashlight, a radio beacon, and a heavy backpack. He was studying strange weather patterns in this region. But suddenly, his equipment started beeping. A strange signal was coming from high up the mountain, a weak light. A heat signature. Something alive. The human stopped and looked up. The mountain was dark, silent, and dangerous. But something inside him whispered, "Someone needs help." He tightened his gloves and started walking upward. The path was steep. Snow covered every rock. He slipped several times but kept going. The wind pushed against him like a force trying to make him turn around. But he continued climbing. Meanwhile, inside the cave, the alien mother tried to warm her child by rubbing his cold hands. She looked around and saw only one thing left: a single dried root. It was not much food, but she broke it into 2 pieces. She put the bigger piece in her child's mouth. Her child chewed slowly, his eyes heavy and tired. She ate nothing. Her hunger did not matter. Her child mattered. But the storm outside grew louder. Snow blew into the cave entrance. The cave became darker. A loud crack came from the back of the cave. The mother froze in fear. Something was moving again. A large shadow passed near the wall. Her heart pounded. She whispered to her child, "Don't be scared. I'm here." But in her heart, she was terrified. At the same time, the human finally reached the cave entrance. Snow dust covered his jacket, and his fingers were numb from the cold. He turned on his flashlight and pointed it inside. He saw nothing at first, only darkness and dripping water. But then, he noticed tiny footprints in the snow, small, weak, and not human. He crouched down and touched the tracks. Someone, or something, was here, he whispered. He stepped inside. The cold hit him like ice. His breath turned white, but he kept moving, carefully placing each step forward. The cave echoed with strange sounds: wind, water drops, and something else. He heard a faint sound, a soft cry, very soft. Very weak. He raised his flashlight and walked deeper. Suddenly, his light fell on 2 figures, a mother holding a child, shivering, starving. Near the far wall, the alien mother saw the light. She quickly pulled her child closer and tried to hide behind a rock. She thought it was a monster or another danger. The human slowly lifted his hands and said, "I'm here to help. I won't hurt you." The mother did not trust him. She had seen humans only from a distance before. They were strong, unpredictable, and unknown. Why would a human come inside this cursed mountain at night? Why would he risk his life? Why would he care for an alien family? The mother stared at him with fear and doubt. The child opened one tired eye. The human took one careful step forward. The cave became silent. The storm roared outside, and in that moment, 3 lives stood at the edge of fate. One step would decide if the night would end in rescue or in tragedy. Snow crashed against the cave entrance as the night grew darker and colder. The alien mother held her weak child close while staring at the human who had appeared like a ghost in the storm. She did not blink. She did not breathe fully. She was afraid that if she moved even a little, something terrible would happen. The human stood still, his hands up to show he meant no harm. His voice was calm, soft, and steady. "I'm not your enemy," he said. "I promise." The mother's heart pounded. She had heard many stories about humans, some good, many bad. But right now, none of those stories mattered. Only her child mattered. And her child was dying. The child's head rested on her shoulder, eyes half closed. His breath came slow, thin, and painful. His small fingers were turning blue because of the cold. The human slowly took off his backpack and placed it on the ground. He opened it carefully and showed what was inside: food packs, energy bars, a medical pouch, a thermal blanket. The mother's eyes widened. But she did not move. Humans often carried weapons too. Maybe this was a trick. The human saw her fear and lowered himself to his knees to look smaller. "Safer. You don't have to trust me," he said softly. "Just let me help your child." The mother looked at her child again. His breathing became weaker. His lips trembled. Her heart broke. She shook him gently, whispering, "Stay with me. Please stay with me." But the child didn't respond. A strong wave of panic hit her. Her hands trembled. Her throat tightened. Her body felt frozen, not from cold, but from fear of losing the only thing she loved. The human saw this and quickly opened a pack of nutrient gel. He pushed it toward her, keeping distance so she would not feel threatened. "You can give this to him," the human said. "It will help him breathe better." The mother hesitated for a few seconds. Every second felt like a year. Finally, with shaking hands, she reached out and took the pack. Her fingers touched the cold ground as she slid back toward her child. She opened the nutrient gel and rubbed the drop on the child's lips. At first, nothing happened. Then slowly, very slowly, the child's lips moved. He swallowed weakly. A tear fell from the mother's eye. She whispered, "Thank you." Not to the human, but to whatever force kept her child alive for one more moment. The human watched quietly. He felt a small sense of relief. But he knew this was just the beginning. The child was far from safe. He took out the thermal blanket and unfolded it. The mother tensed instantly. "I won't touch him," the human said. "You can wrap him. It will keep him warm." She stared at the silver blanket. It looked strange, shiny, unfamiliar. But the cold inside the cave felt sharper now. The storm outside screamed like a wild beast. If she didn't warm her child, the cold would steal him forever. She wrapped the blanket around her child. It made him look even smaller, fragile, almost disappearing in the silver folds. The human smiled faintly. "That's good," he said. "He has a chance now." But the mother did not relax. She still did not understand why a human would climb a deadly mountain in a storm. What pushed him here? What did he want? "What are you doing here?" she asked in a low voice. The human looked around the cave, then back at the mother. "I followed a signal," he said. "Something told me someone needed help." The mother frowned. "Signal? From who?" The human shook his head. "Maybe from you. Maybe from your child. Maybe from the mountain." I don't know. But I couldn't ignore it. The child let out a small cough. The mother held him tightly again. But this time with a bit more hope. Asterisk. Then a sharp sound echoed from deep inside the cave. A heavy, scraped out a deep growl. The mother's eyes widened in terror. She grabbed her child protectively. The human turned his flashlight toward the back of the cave. Beam of light shook slightly in his hand. What was that? He whispered. The mother's voice cracked as she answered. Something lives in this cave. Something that hunts anything weak. The human felt a cold shiver run down his spine. Child was weak. The mother was weak. He was the only one who could move fast. He grabbed his backpack and stood between them, and the darkness. Another growl echoed. This one. Louder. Closer. The human whispered. Stay behind me. The mother did not argue this time. The ground vibrated softly. Loose rocks rolled across the cave floor. Something big, something hungry, something ancient was waking up. The final hour was beginning. The cave became so silent that even the sound of dripping water stopped. The alien mother held her child tightly, feeling every beat of her heart echo inside her chest. The human stood a few steps ahead, flashlight raised, his eyes fixed on the black darkness where the growl had come from. The cave air grew colder, heavier, thicker. Even the storm outside felt calm compared to the silence. Inside, the human's flashlight shook slightly in his hand. The mother whispered, It is awake. He turned to her. What is awake? He asked quietly. Her voice trembled. Something that should have stayed asleep. Before he could ask again, the sound returned, a slow, dragging movement. Stone scraping against stone. A deep breath like a giant beast taking air. After a long sleep, the human felt the vibration through the ground. Something very large was moving toward them. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. His mind told him to run. His instinct told him to hide. But he did neither. Because 2 lives behind him depended on him. He pointed his flashlight toward the sound. At first he saw nothing. Then a shape appeared. Shadow stretching across the cave wall. Long, wide, moving. Slowly, the mother closed her eyes, praying silently. Her child's small hand gripped her finger weakly. The human lowered himself slightly, ready to protect them even if he didn't know how. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed. A large rock rolled from the back of the cave. The shadow moved again. Faster this time. The human's breath caught. He whispered, It's coming closer. He stepped back slowly, keeping himself between the family and the darkness. The mother whispered, Humans should not fight it. No one can. He didn't reply. He couldn't. His heartbeat was loud in his ears. Then, everything stopped again. The shadow froze. The cave became still. The only sound was the child's faint breathing under the silver blanket. The human lowered the flashlight slightly. Maybe the creature had stopped. But then, a small sound broke the silence. The child coughed. A simple cough. An innocent, weak, tiny cough. But inside this cursed cave, it was a signal. From the darkness came a roar, a long, powerful roar that shook the entire tunnel. Dust fell from the ceiling. Loose stones rolled. Even the walls trembled. The mother pressed her child close and cried out, No! The human grabbed his backpack with one hand and reached for the mother with the other. Move! He shouted. We have to move. But the mother didn't move. Her legs were shaking too. Much. Her child was too weak. The human didn't waste time. He pulled the mother gently, but firmly toward the entrance. The roar came again. Louder, closer. He pointed the flashlight backward while dragging them. The beam of light shook wildly. Then, for 1 second, the light caught something. A huge claw, gray, and cracked like old bone. twice the size of a human. "Hand out," the mother gasped. Human's stomach tightened. He didn't wait to see. "More." He pulled the mother forward, helping her stand. "Run," he said. They moved quickly but carefully, the child wrapped in the silver blanket. His small breaths barely visible. The cave floor was uneven. Snow covered parts of it. One wrong step could break an ankle, but stopping was not an option. Behind them, the creature scraped its claws against the stone. Each scrape louder than the last. Each step heavier. The human turned his head for a moment. He saw glowing eyes, two bright yellow circles shining in the darkness. Watching. Following. He felt chills run through his spine. "Don't look back," he told the mother. "Just hold your child and keep moving." She nodded, tears in her eyes. They reached a narrow part of the cave. Only one person could pass at a time. "You go first," the human said. The mother squeezed through the narrow gap. Holding her child carefully, the human stayed behind, blocking the entrance with his body. Flashlight pointing toward the approaching darkness. The creature roared again. This roar was different, angry, hungry, certain. Human felt the ground shake. He knew the creature would reach him soon. He took out a small flare from his backpack. He only had one. He lit it. A bright red flame burst to life. The entire cave lit up for a second. Mother froze in fear. The child whimpered weakly. And the human saw it, a massive creature with stone-like skin, long claws, and a twisted body, shaped by centuries of darkness. It had no nose, no ears, only glowing eyes and long, sharp teeth. The flare hissed in his hand. Creature roared and stepped back from the sudden light. The human shouted to the mother, "Go. I'll hold it off." She didn't want to leave him, but the flare's light gave her a chance. She turned and ran with her child into the next tunnel. The human waved the flare, forcing the creature back, but the flame was burning fast. Too fast. He looked at the exit, then back at the creature. He whispered, "I just need a few more seconds." The flare started to die. The cave grew darker again, and the creature leaned forward. The shadows closed in. Part 3 ended with danger rising and the beginning of a fight he might not survive. The flare burned lower and lower, its red light shaking like a dying heartbeat. The human held it in front of him, forcing the giant cave creature to stay back. The monster growled with anger, but the bright flame kept it from charging forward. For now, far ahead, the alien mother was running through the narrow tunnel, her child wrapped tightly in her arms. Her breath came in short gasps. Her legs felt weak. Snow dust filled the air she breathed, cutting her lungs like sharp ice. She kept whispering to her child, "We're almost safe. We're almost safe," even though she didn't know if that was true. Behind her, the human stood alone, surrounded by darkness and danger. The flare hissed louder. Its flame shrank to half. Its light became weaker. The creature took a step forward. The human stepped back, holding the last bit of light he had. When the flare finally flickered like a tiny candle, he realized something painful. He didn't have time to escape the narrow tunnel himself. If he tried running now, the creature would catch all three of them. He made a decision. A risky one. A decision no one else would take. He turned his head toward the mother, who had stopped deep inside the tunnel to look back at him. For the first time, he saw hope and fear mixed in her eyes. "Go," he shouted. "Take your child and go." "But you," she began. "There is no time," he yelled, voice echoing across the cave walls. "Run, I'll follow you." The monster growled again, louder this time. The human tightened his grip on the flare. He threw his backpack aside to move faster. Only the flare stayed in his hand. The mother hesitated, tears forming in her eyes. She didn't understand humans well, but she understood sacrifice. She knew when someone was risking their life. She knew what it meant to say goodbye without saying the words. Her child's small voice whispered, "Is he coming?" She swallowed the lump in her throat. "Yes," she whispered. "He will come." She forced her legs to move. The human faced the creature alone as the mother and child disappeared deeper into the tunnel. The flare gave its last red spark, and then dashed darkness not deep. Heavy, crushing darkness, the creature roared. Shaking the cave, the human didn't run, he didn't freeze. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something. Small, his emergency light stick. He snapped it. A bright blue glow burst out. The creature flinched again. Stepping back from the sudden light, the human took this chance and backed toward the narrow entrance. If he could reach the tight tunnel, the creature would not fit inside. He moved quickly, using the rocks and walls to guide him. But the creature was adapting. It blinked slowly, its glowing eyes narrowing as it tested the strange blue light. Then it let out a furious roar and charged forward. The human sprinted. He ran with everything he had left. His boots slipped on the icy ground. His hands scraped the rough stones. His backpack lay forgotten on the cave floor. The creature's claws smashed the rocks behind him. Pebbles flew past his face. The blue light stick slipped once from his hand, and he barely grabbed it again. He reached the narrow gap just as the creature lunged. He threw himself sideways into the tight space. A giant claw slammed into the tunnel mouth, missing him by inches. The wall cracked. Dust exploded everywhere. The creature tried to force its head into the tunnel, but the gap was too small. Its teeth scraped the stone. Its breath smelled like old earth and bones. The human crawled backward as fast as he could, heart racing. The creature roared in frustration, smashing its claws again and again into the wall, but it could not reach him. Finally, the human reached a wider part of the tunnel where the mother was waiting, still holding her child, her eyes full of fear. You came," she said, voice shaking. He nodded, breathing hard. "I told you I would." The child reached out a small hand toward him. The human smiled weakly, but their danger was far from over. The creature roared again. From behind the narrow gap, pieces of rock fell, dust covering the ground. The mother whispered, "It will break through soon." Asterisk. The human listened. She was right. The cave walls were old and cracked. The creature was strong. The narrow gap would not stop it for long. He stood up straight, looking at the mother and child, two strangers whose lives now depended on him. "We have to move," he said. "Now, before it gets loose." He took the child gently from the mother so she could run faster. The child rested weakly in his arms. The human looked ahead into the twisting darkness of the cave tunnels. No map, no light, no idea where the next danger would be. But he had made his decision. He would protect them until his last breath. Because no one, not storms, not hunger, not monsters, should take away the chance for a mother and child to live. He tightened his grip on the glowing light stick and led them into the unknown. The tunnels ahead twisted like the inside of a giant beast. Each turn looked the same, dark, narrow, and full of shadows. The human held the weak alien child in his arms while the mother followed close behind, her hands trembling, her eyes darting at every sound. Behind them, the monster slammed against the narrow passage again. A loud crack echoed through the cave. The mother gasped, "It is breaking the walls. It will come through soon." The human kept walking fast but carefully, his blue light stick glowing faintly in the darkness. "We'll stay ahead of it," he said. "Just keep moving." But inside, he knew the truth. They had only minutes before the monster broke free. The cave rumbled again. Dust fell from the ceiling. The walls trembled like they were alive. The mother whispered, "The mountain is angry." The child stirred weakly in the human's arms. He opened his eyes halfway and whispered, Is it still coming? The human held him closer. Yes, he said honestly. But we're faster. He wished that were true. They reached a wider tunnel. Frozen air rushed through it, colder than the earlier paths. The mother shivered, hugging herself, her breath forming thin white clouds. Suddenly, dash boom dot, the sound came from behind them. The monster had broken through. A wave of cold silence followed. Then the heavy thumps of massive footsteps began again. The mother's legs weakened. It's free. The human didn't waste time. Run. They rushed forward. Their footsteps echoed loudly, bouncing off the cave walls. The child clung to the human's coat with the last bit of strength he had. Another boom. Another. Crack in the walls. Then the ground shook sharply, not from the monster, but from something deeper. A section of the cave ahead began to crumble. Move! The human shouted. He jumped forward as a huge chunk of rock crashed down behind him, missing his back by inches. The mother screamed as smaller stones rolled near her feet. The entire mountain felt like it was. Breathing and getting ready to collapse, the human turned. Eyes wide. The creature's weight is weakening the cave structure. We have to get out before he could finish. The ground dipped suddenly beneath them. Snow and dirt slid down the tunnel. Like a mini avalanche. The mother slipped. Her foot twisted, and she cried out as she fell to her knees. The human stopped instantly. Get up, he said, reaching out with one hand while holding the child with the other. I can't, she said, pain filling her voice. You have to. He grabbed her arm and pulled her up. Monster roared again, closer than ever. Its footsteps shook. Dust from the ceiling. The mother's fear turned to despair. It will reach us. It will kill us. No, the human said. His voice was firm, stronger than the shaking mountain. I'm not letting that happen. They pushed forward, entering a taller area of the cave. Snowy air blew inside, meaning they were getting closer to the outer tunnels. But then a deep, cracking echo. The ceiling above them started breaking. The human dropped to the ground, covering the child with his body as stones fell like deadly rain. The mother shielded her head with her arms. A huge chunk of rock smashed near the human's leg, sending pain shooting up his side. He gritted his teeth but didn't move away from the child. The monster roared again. Louder this time. It was entering the wider tunnel behind them. The human forced himself up. We can't stay here. Stand up, move. The mother stumbled to her feet, limping. As they ran, another part of the ceiling fell behind them, blocking the tunnel and slowing the creature for a moment. The human breathed in relief, but the pause didn't last long. The monster smashed the fallen stone aside like it was nothing. Human turned the next corner and saw something that made his pulse jump. Light, a faint cold white light, the exit. He whispered, but the path to that exit was narrow and steep, like a broken stairway made of ice and rock. One wrong step could send them falling. Behind them, the monster's heavy breathing filled the air. The mother looked at the climb and shook her head. I can't do this fast enough. The human made a choice immediately. He gave her the child. Her eyes widened. What are you doing? He steadied her hands. He needs you to get him out. And you? She whispered. He looked back at the tunnel where the glowing eyes of the creature appeared. I'll slow it down. No, she cried softly. You cannot fight it. I'm not fighting it, he said. Just delaying it. He grabbed a sharp piece of broken rock and held it like a weapon. The creature roared and stepped into view, its massive body filling the tunnel. The mother stared at the human, tears running down her face. He gave her one final look, not of fear, not of regret, but of determination. Go, he said quietly. She hugged her child and began climbing toward the exit. Knowing every second mattered, the human turned to face the creature. His breath came slow, his heartbeat steady. The cave rumbled violently. Snow fell. Rock split. The monster growled, and the human whispered to himself, "Just buy them a few more seconds." As the creature charged, the cave around them began to collapse, and the fight for their survival reached its breaking point. The cave shook from the creature's charge, and the human braced himself as the giant monster slammed into the rocks where he had stood moments earlier. The force sent cracks racing across the cave walls, dust exploding into the air like smoke. The human ducked, coughing, eyes burning, but he did not run. Not yet. Far above him, the alien mother climbed the icy slope with her child in her arms. Every step was slow. Every step hurt. Her ankle throbbed with pain, and her fingers felt cold and stiff. But she did not stop. Her child's faint breaths pushed her forward. She looked back once. The human stood alone, facing the creature with nothing but a broken rock shard in his hand. "Please be safe," she whispered. Down below, the human took one careful step back. The monster lunged forward again, slamming its huge claws against the ground. A spray of stones shot into the air. One sharp rock sliced across the human's arm, leaving a line of blood. He hissed in pain but did not fall. "Come on," he muttered under his breath. "Just follow me a little more." He threw another piece of rock toward the monster. It hit the creature's forehead, making it flinch just enough for him to spin and run toward the narrow climb. Behind him, the monster roared, furious. The human grabbed a frozen ledge and pulled himself upward. His fingers slipped, his boots slid on the icy rock, but he kept climbing. The creature tried to follow, slamming its claws into the wall, causing more cracks. The entire cave groaned. Suddenly, crack! A large piece of rock broke off beneath the creature's weight, falling into the darkness below. The monster roared in frustration, struggling to pull itself upward. The opening was too tight. Its body was too wide. This gave the human a small chance. He climbed faster, ignoring the pain in his hands and the burning in his legs. At the top of the slope, he saw the mother kneeling beside her child. The child's eyes were half closed. His breathing was shallow. His small body shook from cold. The human almost froze in fear, not of the creature, but of losing the child. He crawled the last few feet, panting, and checked the child's forehead. "His temperature is dropping," he said quickly. "We need to get him out right now." The mother nodded, tears running down her cheeks. "Please, save him." The human didn't waste time. He took off his own thick coat, wrapping it around the child's small body. Even though the freezing wind hit his own skin like knives, the cave rumbled again. The monster had freed one claw and was trying to squeeze through. The human lifted the child gently, holding him close to his chest. "Stay awake," he whispered to the child. "Just a little longer. Stay awake." He turned to the mother. "You walk behind me. If you slip, I'll catch you." She nodded weakly. They entered a narrow passage where the cold wind blasted through like a river. Snowflakes rushed inside, carried by the storm. The human shielded the child with his body, taking the full force of the wind. Every step felt heavy. Every breath turned into white frost, but he kept going. After a few minutes, the tunnel widened, revealing a slanted path of ice. Below it, they heard rushing water, an underground river. The mother froze. "If we fall, we won't fall," the human said firmly. He held the child with one arm and offered his other hand to the mother. She hesitated, then took his hand. Slowly, one step at a time, they moved across the ice. The mother slipped once, and the human quickly pulled her back. The wind roared through the tunnel, pushing them sideways. From behind them came another roar. The creature had almost reached the top of the slope. The human's heart raced. There was no time. "Run," he said. They crossed the icy path and reached a wide chamber that sloped upward toward faint daylight. The exit. Real light, real hope. The mother gasped. We are close. The child let out a weak sound, almost a cry. The human held him tighter. You're going to make it, he whispered. They climbed the last stretch of the chamber. Just as they neared the light, the cave shook violently again. The ground behind them cracked open. Rocks fell, sealing the narrow path the monster was climbing. A loud thunder echoed through the chamber. The monster's roar faded as a wall of stone collapsed between them. The human fell to his knees. Gasping, the mother trembled, covering her mouth in shock. We're safe? For now, the human said, finally catching his breath. He looked at the child, still alive, but fading fast. We need to get him outside, he said urgently. Cold air, sunlight, rescue drones. Everything he needs is out there. The mother nodded, wiping her tears. Together, they moved toward the light, step by step, hope growing with every breath. Behind them, the monster's roars became distant. Ahead of them, the mountain wind carried a promised life. The first rays of pale sunlight pierced through the cave entrance. Snow sparkled like tiny diamonds on the mountain slopes. For the alien mother and her child, it was the first light they had seen in what felt like forever. But the child's small body was still weak, his breaths shallow, and the mother's heart thumped with fear and hope all at once. The human held the child gently in his arms, wrapping him with his coat to block the cold wind. His face was streaked with dust, scratches, and exhaustion, but his eyes were steady. He had kept them alive through the cave, the monster, and the collapsing mountain. Now the final test awaited them outside. The mother's legs trembled as she walked beside him. We almost lost him, she whispered. Her voice cracked. How did you save us? The human smiled faintly, glancing at the small child in his arms. I couldn't leave you behind, he said simply. No matter what. The wind howled around them, carrying pieces of snow into their faces, but the warmth of sunlight made the moment feel alive. They stepped carefully over broken rocks and icy patches, every movement a battle. The mountain seemed alive, watching, testing them one last time. Then, suddenly, a faint hum echoed through the air. It was soft at first, almost like music, but it grew louder. The human froze. The mother clutched his arm, her eyes wide. Above them, a small drone appeared, shining a light toward them. More followed, their lights cutting through the fog and snow. Rescue. The human held the child higher, showing him to the drones. The machines hovered closer, scanning the small family. The mother's eyes filled with tears as she realized that help had finally come. She bent down, hugging her child tightly, her fear melting into relief. The drones hovered, dropping thermal blankets, emergency supplies, and food packets. The human set the child down gently on a warm blanket. The child opened his eyes slightly, weak but alive. A tiny smile touched his lips. The mother whispered, We are safe. The human nodded, feeling a quiet relief. But he did not relax. The mountain could still be dangerous. The monster could still be alive somewhere below. Then, a radio crackled in the human's pocket. A voice shouted over the static. Are you there? We are sending more support, hang on. The mother looked at him in wonder. You called for this? I did, he said. Before I came up. I never gave up hope that someone would find us. The small alien child reached out, touching the human's cheek with one tiny hand. Thank you, he whispered. The human's heart tightened. He knelt down, resting his hand on the child's small head. You're brave, he said softly. Braver than anyone I've ever known. The mother held the child close, tears rolling down her cheeks. He would not have survived without you, she said. Her voice shook. You risked everything for us. The human shook his head. It wasn't just me, he said. It was all of us together. You survived, he survived. That's what matters. The drones lowered a stretcher for the child. The mother carefully placed him on it, watching every movement. The human walked beside her, shielding them from the wind. Step by step, they moved toward safety. As they reached the edge of the mountain, the human looked back one last time. The cave lay in shadows, broken and silent. The monster had disappeared into the depths. The mountain had tested them, almost taken them, but they had survived. The mother turned to the human. How can we ever repay you? She asked, voice trembling. He smiled faintly. You already did, he said. Just live. That's all the thanks I need. The rescue team arrived fully at the mountain's base. Medical personnel ran toward them, wrapping the child in warm blankets, checking his pulse, and giving him nourishment. The mother's heart soared as she saw her child's color returning. She held his hand, never letting go. The human stepped back, watching. The mountain that had seemed so cruel hours ago now seemed alive with hope. He realized something: the courage of the alien mother, the bravery of the child, and the determination in himself had created a miracle. The child opened his eyes and smiled weakly at him. Thank you, he said again. The mother knelt, touching the human's hands. You did not just save 2 lives. You saved our entire future, she said. Her voice was firm and filled with awe. Our people will never forget you. The human looked toward the horizon. The sun was higher now, warming the mountain, melting some of the snow, lighting the sky in golden shades. A new day had begun. For the first time in days, the alien mother felt safe. For the first time in days, the child smiled without fear. And the human, exhausted, battered, but alive, felt a quiet pride. He had risked everything for strangers. He had fought a mountain, a monster, and the storm. And in return, he had received something far greater than recognition or reward. He had given life hope, and a miracle. The wind whispered through the mountains, carrying the story of that human to every corner. The human who climbed the haunted mountain, faced the darkness, and saved an alien mother and her child, creating a legend that would be told for generations. The alien mother, holding her child close, looked at the human one last time. You are family now, she said softly. The child nodded, smiling faintly. Family, he whispered. The human smiled. Yes, he said. Family. And in that moment, the mountains that had once brought fear, hunger, and death now became a symbol of hope, courage, and the unbreakable bond of life. The miracle on the mountain was complete.